Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. I ain't did nothing. Claressa Shields, boy, she talking about having a baby. You ain't never leaving me, Pat. Claressa Shields, boy, she got so much going on in her world, man. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? She talking about having a baby. She got drama with the crap that got stirred up with her and with Papoose and Layla Ali, Ann Wolf, boxing fans, endorsement deals. She got all kind of stuff going on. But my thing is this. What happens to Claressa Shields, right? Because she's talking way more about baby and family than she is about being great in the ring. Now, we know it seems like she may be back doing some kind of training, but I don't care about that. What got my attention is the fact that she was talking about leaving the ring for a couple of years, have a child, then come back, pick up where she left off basically. It's what she think is going to happen. Then maybe take another couple of years off, have another child. The bottom line is, I'm looking like me, I'm 50. Papoose is 47. I'm looking at me, so one thing I'm looking at, I know starting another family at that age, that's a lot to ask for. But I'm not saying that it can't be done. But for me, I'm like, yo, as a 50-year-old guy, I don't know what Papoose is doing. That's their business. But that's a lot. And then I look at myself as an athlete. Claressa Shields is an athlete. She's a boxer. And she's sounding like she feels she can really maybe fight this year, maybe some of next year, or take next year and a year off, have a child. And let me tell you something. Even now, I run for an hour and a half with a 25-pound weighted vest on, 5 days out the week, right? I take that vest off, I don't get tired. I can run for fucking maybe 3 hours. I can run a marathon. I'm 50 now. But when I was in my 30s, right, well, she's 30. I think she's 30, man. Let me just see because, I ain't even sure how old she is. I'm about to tell you right now. Because I'm curious about this. How old is curious? Because I want to draw a correlation or something. Okay, so she's 30 years old. So in 30, I was still in my prime. I was still a beast. I say 35 is when I had so many tears in my shoulders, bone spurs. I had all kind of, carpal tunnel, shit, issues with my elbows, arthritis throughout my body, and all kind of little complicated medical terms that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. And I still have them. But about 35, I started noticing, like, damn, putting on, the six-pack and all that shit started to kind of soften up a little bit. And, the runs, I wasn't running, a mile and a half and less than 7 minutes and 30 seconds anymore. All of a sudden, it bubbled up to like 9 something. And then next thing you know, the mile and a half was like, 10 something. And I'm like, what the hell? So I think around 35. And I still playing basketball, lifting weights, and still going to the gym and boxing and stuff. But I noticed that it started to slow down a little bit. So with Claressa Shields, and I'm a male, she's a female, but she's a professional athlete. But I was still training just as hard and working out and stuff, But what I'm getting at is, some things you can't control, man. And I couldn't imagine. Now, I have 4 sons. I saw my sons being born, right? I know what that puts a woman's body through. So to think about her having a child, thinking she could take a couple years off. She's 30 now. She'll be 31 next year because she's born in March 17th. And let's say she disappears at age 31, comes back at age 33. Let me tell you something. That shit is not going to be easy. That's not going to be easy. But what happens now if for some reason she really wants to shift to this family thing and for some reason things between her and Papoose don't work out? We've seen things with a lot of fighters, mostly the men, where they have ups and downs in their career because things didn't work out with their significant other. You look at Shane Mosley. You know, I didn't know a whole lot about it. I knew him and his ex at the time was separating. It was right around the time where he was fighting Mayweather. Mayweather was brutal on HBO 24/7, talking about the man's personal business. I can still remember the woman's name is Jen. Mayweather like, yeah, Jen got half that money, and Mayweather was ridiculous the way he was treating Shane Mosley. But all I'm saying is when you shift from boxing to family, or your plans for family don't work out, I just don't see how a person can get back to like where Clarissa Shields is currently, to your prime and fire on all cylinders. You know what I'm saying? You got to be living the life. And I'm telling you, when you have kids, for me, let me just say it, for me it changed. Once my first child was born, nothing mattered after that. I didn't matter. You know, my health mattered, but that was it. Now, there are some people who don't give a shit. They got some animals out here that don't care. They have children. But I personally think when it comes to Clarissa Shields, if she has a child, she going to lose her mind. She going to go crazy. And I'm talking in a positive way. That girl going to be so happy to have a child, especially if the relationship between her and Papoose is healthy and he with her. You know what I'm saying? She's going to be able to create something that she didn't have. And I would hope everything works out, because let me tell you, that shit don't work out, she going to crash and burn. But the one thing for sure is Clarissa, she was once really laser focused on being the GWOAT. Maybe she feels there's nothing else she can do in the sport of boxing. You know what I'm saying? This shit about cutting down to 147, 154, maybe she feel like, yo, that ain't realistic. There's nothing else for me to do. There is no true challenge. I'm going after what I think could be a true challenge in a retired Layla Ali. I may not get that. Maybe she's like, whatever, because of the way the competition is, I could retire for 2 years and come back. I just think when she was so focused on being the GWOAT, and now she's going to be focused on being a mom and trying to have a family, motherhood and building a legacy outside the ring could be her next step. Now, for years, she's prided herself on being a pioneer, breaking barriers, and, you know, as much as we've been talking about in the last couple of days, you know, just trying to demand respect, even though she still ain't realized it's got to be earned, but she's trying to, in her own way, I think her moral compass, from what she knows and what she's doing, she feels her moral compass is pointed in the right direction. But she knows it's a male-dominated sport, and she's trying to affect change. And I think she's done quite a bit to get eyes on the sport, on women's boxing. But I just think when I'm listening to her words and her demeanor, outside of all the other stuff we've been talking about her, man, it's been a bit of a subtle change, and Papoose has a lot to do with that, because all of a sudden she's thinking about her biological clock. And I'm not at all saying she's wrong, but she's thinking about that biological clock, to me, more than her next opponent. And I think it's human. But I just think in a sport like boxing, the body is the temple. And you start taking time away from the ring, it means you're going to lose some of that sharpness, lose your rhythm, could lose your aura. It happens to the men. I never really paid attention to a woman leaving and coming back to a combat sport. Clarissa Shields would be the first that I ever really paid attention to. But if it happens to men, And then you have a woman who leaves and has a child and try to come back. I just can't see her coming back and being the same. Hell no. Now maybe she's that special of an athlete, but I'm just saying. I know that she wants everyone to believe that the women can do what the men can do when it comes to boxing and all that. We should fight the 3-minute rounds and we should get the same pay and we should this and women. All the women, if you're with me, throw your hands up. We going Beyonce out here. I just think this, man. Maybe women deserve all that. But the one thing for sure is a man and a woman ain't nothing alike. As far as the biology. What the woman's body can amazingly do. I seen it 4 times. Matter of fact, I'm lying. Back when I was 20 years old, I was 20 years old. I was 19. This chick I met was over there at a house chilling. Her dad, mom, sister, everybody was over at that house. They're having a barbecue. And I rolled up over there and shit. Father wanted to meet me. The girl had a child. She had just had a child. I met her and she had a child. Child was about maybe 5 months old. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I was out of the club and ran into her. Anyway, I roll over there and I'm like, yo, what is this? She got a little jub over there. I'm like, oh, you got a baby? Okay, cool. The whole family sitting in the living room chilling. Hey, put on the video. And I'm just sitting there. They had cooked some food. It was a kind of, mixed family, a kind of blended family. Mother was white, dad was black. This is in Idaho. It's on first base. And so I saw the food they had out there. I was like, I ain't eating that shit. So they gave me a big plate of some smothered chicken and green beans and potato salad. I was like, I ain't rude. I was like, thank you. But I sat that shit right there on my lap and I ain't eat that shit. And they put on a video of the girl giving birth to the child. I'm like, yo, you got this girl poom up here on the goddamn TV. The whole goddamn family in there watching this girl there with her legs spread and this baby just falling out and shit. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this? But what I'm saying is, that shit was pretty interesting to see. Like, yo, a woman's body is amazing, man. But for Clarissa Shields, and when I think about that, then seeing my 4 sons being born, and just knowing my wife, and just seeing that her getting back to where she was, and watching that process 4 times. I just say, damn, yo, Clarissa Shields, if she really gonna go out here and do this, man, maybe she finds a kind of peace in family. Maybe she'll find a kind of peace in family instead of that pressure of boxing. And then what happens is, I just think peace in boxing, it doesn't really exist. As a result, she could really enjoy that peace in that family life. And when she's gonna remove herself from the chaos to go start a family and find peace. But then to leave that peace and try to re-immerse yourself back in the chaos, I don't know if she's gonna be able to do that, man. And then in a relationship, there could always be some distractions. You see, we want to look at this as if we're in a perfect world. Claressa Shields, whipping everybody's ass, multiple weight divisions. She goes, she has a baby, starts a family with Pap. Everything's going perfect. 2 years. Okay, I'm going to go back and train and fight. Pap, you and Papoose-Jr., y'all just chill. Support me. I got this. All that sounds good, but that ain't really how, that ain't the real world. You know what I'm saying? You can already look right now and see that her relationship with Papoose, is public, controversial, filled with drama. Then all the little bit of bull crap going on. And I would wish them the best of luck, but I'm just looking at the men and what they go through, and the women, even some of the women, what they go through. And when these athletes do talk about just different things, man. It doesn't even have to be from relationships, just different stresses. I just think in sports psychology, relationships can either stabilize an athlete or destabilize them. And that's the thing, you know, after a child and everything else, will the relationship continue to be stabilized? I couldn't imagine her trying to come back with Clarissa come back to the sport after a couple of years off, where the relationship is destabilized and thinks she's going to be able to come back out here and focus and get herself in shape and get in the ring and perform optimally. I just think when you have romance and public scrutiny, right? I just think that's you create an environment of emotional volatility. Now you take the romance, public scrutiny, children, inactivity, okay, and whatever biological changes or physical changes or emotional, spiritual, mental changes that happen as a result of giving birth to a child and being away from the sport you love for 2 years. There's some volatility there. So Papoose may never be able to leave her boy, and I hope he don't, especially if they have children, because I would like to hear that at least people are together. And look, it ain't my business, but I just want to hear positive things. I just think you got to understand the science behind all this shit. And this is for men and women. This is for everybody, man. People don't talk about it, man. I think athletes under relationship stress show what they say as increased cortisol levels. That's the body's stress hormone, you know what I'm saying? And that affects everything about an athlete. And that's just what you don't need. So an athlete, especially someone like Clarissa, they might feel emotionally supported by their partners, but the external chaos could be draining for them physically and mentally in the camp. So I just think there's a lot of what ifs surrounding that. But it's a beautiful thing if they decide to go on out there and decide to push forward with a family. But I just don't know, man. There's just so much going on with Clarissa Shields. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? I think when a fighter steps away from the sport of boxing, right? In sports science, there's a term called detraining. That's when an athlete's performance capacity drops due to lack of consistent training and competition. That shit is deep. Detraining. Your performance capacity drops due to lack of consistent training and competition. So Clarissa Shields is going to suffer from detraining. Longer you're away, the more your reflexes, endurance, and neural firing patterns fade. I believe that 100%. And the thing is, for women, right? The body undergoes even more complex changes during and after pregnancy. Studies show it can take 12 to 18 months for an athlete to return to peak conditioning after childbirth. Hormonal shifts, bone density changes, and muscle elasticity all factor in. They say some women like Serena Williams and Allison Felix came back strong after childbirth, but it took enormous mental fortitude and world-class resources. Meaning that Wu-Tang Cream, cha-ching, ching, dollar, dollar bill, y'all. Had to get the right people on the team to help get them back. So they say Clarissa would need to invest a full-time recovery, nutrition, and psychological program to even attempt a comeback at the level she's at. That's a lot to digest. Anyway, everybody gonna have an opinion on it. She can do what she wants, but I just think you gotta understand the comparisons, man, when you talk about male and females having children. Women's body go through more than men's, I'll tell you that. You talk about Keith Thurman, again, man took time off, got married, healed injuries, and enjoyed life, lost his rhythm, been chasing his old self ever since. The same pattern hit fighters. You come about Andre Ward, Tyson Fury, Mikey Garcia. You just see it happen. So I wouldn't assume that Claressa Shields is going to come back in better condition than those guys were able to achieve. And they didn't have children. You know what I'm saying? They're men. So I just think if she leaves boxing for 2 years to have a baby, she'll have to rediscover everything. Her timing, her speed, her explosiveness, her ring IQ, her counterpunching ability, her anticipation, every single thing. All while facing younger, hungrier fighters. All over again. So if she doesn't lose before she leaves to have a baby, if her and Papoose work out, by the time she has that child and comes back to boxing, if she does, there's a great chance of her losing. And that's just the danger of decline, man. Even when you look at Clarissa Shields' last couple of fights, for me, she didn't look that impressive. So to me, she's already showing signs of slower reflexes, less snap in her punches. And that's not an insult. I'm not trying to insult her. I'm just giving you my observation. But I think that's the natural evolution of an athlete's body under stress, getting up there in age. And I just think the longer she stays distracted, the more that decline becomes permanent. A few years ago, she was a face of women's boxing, you know what I'm saying? Now she's losing that energy to personal controversies and offering distractions. So publicly, she's fighting for attention, But professionally, she's fighting for focus. And right now, I think she's losing both. And I hope she can get it together. But I just think a child adds a whole nother layer of complexity to her pre-existing public and personal complications. Because that spotlight effect is no joke, man. Motherhood, the relationship, lawsuits, fans turning their back on her, man. I mean, what's the cost here? You know what I'm saying? Like, really, what's the cost here? We know publicity is like adrenaline. Everybody wants publicity, but maybe it feels good in the short term, but I think it burns you out. And I think she's going to realize that, you know what I'm saying? Especially if it becomes your oxygen source. So, I heard a term, it's called spotlight addiction. You know what I'm saying? I think Clarissa Shields is suffering from that right now. She's caught up in the spotlight addiction, where the athlete becomes dependent on being talked about, even if it's for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? And that's dangerous because once the media moves on, that crash that follows can lead to depression, anxiety, or self-destructive behavior. And, we don't need to hear about all that when she's trying to have a family and all that. You know what I'm saying? So, Clarissa, she's got a lot going on, man. I know sometimes she can be an easy target, but when you really sit back and try to understand her position and everything she has going on, she got a lot going on, man. So can she get stronger before she leaves the sport? Maybe. After she leaves the sport, can she return stronger? I don't know. But maybe with serious structure, she can do that. You know what I'm saying? But she would have to have a performance psychologist, female-centric recovery team. Got to just stay away from the goddamn media, maintain her silence, and rebuild fan trust through humility and sportsmanship. You know what I mean? If she does that, she can reinvent herself and become a role model for women, balancing family and athletic excellence, So I think she's going to get a couple opportunities to really do something great for herself. But if she keeps walking this road of controversy, distractions, reactive behavior, man, and she risks becoming a sideshow, a spectacle instead of a story of greatness, which is the path I think she's still kind of on, but it seems to be going a little bit left already. So at the end of the day, man, I just think it's a decision between peace and legacy. If Clarissa wants peace, she should step away and just embrace family life because she don't need all them headaches and drama. But if she wants legacy, she got to cut out distractions, double down on discipline, and remind the world who the GWOAT really is. Because in boxing, once you stop wanting it, someone younger, hungrier, and quieter will take it. And they out there. So, in my opinion, when it comes to Claressa Shields, she doesn't have to choose between being a mother and a legend, but she does have to choose between being distracted and being dominant when it comes to the sport of boxing. And that she got to figure out. And Papoose, they got to sort it out together. He has a woman in his life, man, that is a special type of athlete. He done come across something that he ain't gonna find nowhere else. That what she's done as an athlete, as a boxer, as a female, that shit is. That's why they had a movie done about her. Like she's different. She got flaws, but she got some pros to her too. She got some good about her too, But when it comes to children, that just hit my heart a little different. I just really wish them the best of luck with all that. But I just think me watching her right now, she just seemed to have so much shit going on, distractions, stresses, and I don't know, man. But anyway, they're adults. They'll sort it out. Your best of luck to them. Y'all keep cool. Time for me to get ready for tomorrow. Y'all in the breeze.